Welcome to The Truth in His Heart. I am your host, Rob Lee, and my next guest is chef, educator, entertainer. Please welcome Chef Erik Berlin, Chef Egg. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So let's get cracking. I was going to do that. Can you introduce yourself, how you guys started, and ultimately what drew you to the kitchen professionally?
Cool. So my name's Chef Egg. It is my goal to give people the culinary skills they need to succeed in the kitchen. This is like a life's mission. I'm 40 years old. I've been doing this for 20 years now. And every day I wake up, how do I teach people how to cook? And I do that for several reasons. The big one being that cooking can do so many things in your life. It can help you meet people. It can help you learn about the world, but also can improve your health, improve your finances, improve your self-esteem. Also helps you to improve kind of your outlook on the world. There are not a lot of racist chefs out there. There are not a lot of closed-minded chefs out there, or cooks as a whole, because food is international. And to be able to give people those skills, to be able to share my outlook on food is a blessing. And it's what I love to do every single day. I started cooking when I was pretty young. I knew I wanted to be a chef fairly young. What kind of chef? I had no clue. I still have no clue what kind of chef I want to be. I think that changes daily for me. But my mom wasn't a great cook, and she hates that I say that. I've said it on television here in the city, and she's like, "Why did you say that?" But the fact is, the food wasn't so great. I don't know if you remember the early 80s, but there was a lot of convenience food. There was a lot of boxed mac and cheese and hot dogs, and SpaghettiOs were like the king food. And I was like, I want to learn how to make food like Julia Child on TV. I want to do Yan Can Cook. They had this Cajun cook called Justin Smith who was drinking wine on PBS, and all of these cats. I wanted to be like them. They look like they're having a blast and eating really good food. So I started cooking when I was 14 at Meriwether Post Pavilion, making pizzas. I started cooking on the line when I was 16 at a hotel in Columbia, Maryland, where I grew up. Went to culinary school and vowed I would never cook in a restaurant ever again after that.
Nice. So yeah, thank you for walking us through it. And you did you have any more? Because I realized I kind of stepped on you a little bit there.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I went to culinary school. Culinary school is only 2 years, so my parents are like, you need a 4-year degree in something. They're both educators. They're like, you got to have something. Yeah. So my degree's in hospitality management, and then I played in bands after that. And I was a youngster doing my thing, and then I wanted to do this Chef Egg thing, and I started that when I was 20 in college. Mm-hmm. I did a project, made a TV show called Cooking with Egg, and this was like way before YouTube. This was before anything of that nature, and I made a funny little video, and it's kind of grown from there. And now I've grown into, I love to teach people live and in person. That's the biggest thing for me. So I travel all around the place and I teach people how to cook, and it makes me feel great.
So yeah, let's actually talk about that a little bit. So in not having that desire to be in restaurants or what have you, and the cooking class, like, is that kind of that mode that best works? Or would you want to do it as a show moving into where we're at now? Because we have so many more avenues now where you're a Twitch stream away from going viral or doing something live on Instagram and making that mode. So why cooking classes? Is it really to poke at that educator side of your background?
Yeah. So I always want to do something that nobody else is doing. So when nobody was making TV shows, I was making TV shows. Everybody starts making TV shows. You've got to move. Everybody and literally their mother and grandmother has a cooking show right now. It seems to be the easiest way to do something. And to me, I'm like, well, that's not cool. Everybody's doing it. And I'm not fighting all these people for attention. Yeah. So what I decided to do, and I had to start a business. You got to make money. Yeah. So I started doing cooking classes. Goodness gracious. I don't know. We were started doing cooking classes 10 years ago at the Blue Moon Cafe in Fells Point.
Yeah.
My friend Sarah's like, here are the keys. Have fun with your classes. Don't mess up my restaurant. So we did presentations. Then we moved into hands-on classes. And then I've literally traveled the world doing this cooking class thing. And I have fully mobile cooking class that I do, and I take burners and pots and pans. I will do live presentations that are interactive, but I'll also set up little kitchens for groups to cook at. I said, nobody's doing this. I can do this. And it works into the fact that I'm a musician, and performance is huge for me. You know, you have to put on a show that people are going to love and that they're going to remember, and that nobody else is doing. So even if there was another person doing, and there's several people doing cooking classes here in the city specifically, nobody's putting on a Chef Egg show. When you go on WBAL, WBFF, you know, you do these TV stations, you got 3 minutes to show them your stuff. Yeah. And you have to make a mark. And it's just like a band. Band's got 10 minutes. You can play 3 songs. You got to make the crowd remember you. And that was really, really huge for me. And through that, just being in the city for so many years, I've played it. When I say I played, I act like it's a concert. But I've done Artscape, Book Fest. You know, I've done these big festivals here in the city. We've had sold out cooking classes for years until COVID hit. And, you know, I'm on all the news stations, and then COVID struck.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, what do? I can't get a real job. I hate restaurants, and all the restaurants are closed. Right. So I started, you know, and it took some time, and it was kind of painful, but I got into doing virtual cooking classes. And now that people are back out in the world, I'm now doing in-person cooking classes and presentations. I just got back from travel over the weekend. And then these on Monday and Tuesday, I had virtual cooking classes every day. Yeah. And my dream was, and I got kids at home, I got a wife, I got a house, I got 2 cats, you got to take care of. You have to pay the bills. Yes. And if you can pay the bills with your art, you're making it happen, in my opinion. So being on TV, I know people on TV, they don't look that happy. Right. I made my own television show. It's called Chef Egg's Cooking Experience, where we had little characters that pop up into my cooking, into my world. I don't know if you checked it out. I did, yeah. It's that nobody's done that. Yeah. And it took me 7 years to make that, probably $20,000. Wow. Yeah. And I made it. And every day I woke up, I want to make this thing. I want to make this thing. Nobody's going to make it. If I don't make it, somebody else is going to make it. I made it. I pitched it out. Nobody wanted it. It's too much money to produce, clearly. Mm-hmm. You know, I got some pretty big no's, which I think is cool. Yeah. I had Mark Summers from Double Dare and the Food Network like, nah, we're not going to take it. We'll pass on that. Yeah. I was like, well, thanks, Mark Summers. It's nice to meet you. Physical challenge. But what dawned on me was, I know people that are on TV. They're not happier than I am. They don't have what I have. They can't do what I can do. And that making the TV show didn't necessarily make me happy. It just moved me on to the next artistic venture. Yeah. So now I got 2 things. I got to pay the bills. 3 things. You got to pay the bills. You got to make really good food. And you have to continue your artistic ventures forward. And that is just, besides paying the bills and making food, making is important to me. And whether I'm making TV shows, I'm making music I got in several bands. I mean, I have to be every day. I want to make. But what I really love to do, and you know, if this came down the pike, when you film a show, there's editing, there's sound, there's this, there's that. It takes forever. And as the producer and the host, it's gut wrenching. Mm-hmm. It's just like, oh, this is horrible. I did a horrible, you know, you can't be partial. You can't separate yourself from it. Right. What I love to do is I go on WBAL, I don't know, 6-7 times a year, WBFF, you know, and you do these one-offs. You do 5 minutes. They give you 5 minutes to go live. And that's the best because it's all live. I'm sitting on there with Jennifer Franciotti, BS and back and forth, having a great time. Yeah. We make good food. I get a message out to thousands of people. and then it's done, and you wrap up and you move on to the next thing.
So yeah, so that kind of reminds me a couple of the things that you touched on of kind of always feeling like you're stretching creatively or what have you, and always moving and almost and this is paraphrasing from another podcast, but going to where the puck is going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And anticipating that, like. And I like it. I noticed a bit of stank that was there. It's like no one's doing what I'm doing, and I feel the same way. It's like other people who are doing podcasts and talking to people and so on. Yeah, they could have a conversation with you. It's not going to be the same way that I'm doing it.
Absolutely.
And that's the way that you got to know what you're putting into it and what your drive is and how you approach it. And I think what you're doing is very much associated with being an artist versus this is work, what have you. It's like you're in that spot where you're able to look at it from both perspectives.
Absolutely.
And I think having that artfulness, it makes you almost a perfectionist in some ways of like, yeah, I got to make this better than the next one. Yeah, I said this, being on the news is fine, but you never feel like really satisfied.
Well, to that, you're never going to be satisfied with anything you do. And I can make, I'm we're in the middle of finishing up a record and I'm like, I could have gone back and I played the drums, could have played those drums better. But in a month, a year down the road, it's going to look just fine. When you're in it, you're so hyper critical. Yeah. When I get off, when I'm in my car, when they shut the lights off at the news station, because that's what they do to you. They finish up and they shut the lights off on you. You're like, I could have did that better. Somebody reaches out. I'm like, oh, you forgot this. I'm like, I guess I forgot that, but I'm going to be on again in another month or 3 weeks or what have you. And I'm going to make it better then. And every presentation I do, you're going to make mistakes, but what's most important, and I think that from an artist's perspective, it's about how you connect with people. And whether I mess up or, I've messed up in so many ways in front of people on live television. I don't even care anymore because my mess up isn't somebody else's mess up. It still looks good when I do it. Is it perfect? No, but only I can see that. And when it's never going to be perfect. And the minute you get that, you're free. Your painting is never going to be perfect. Your recording, it's never, but it's going to, like you said, it's going to have some stank on it. And that's what you want. Everything you do should have a little bit of that on it because it's original. It's like playing a song live as opposed to a recording. They'll say, oh, that Bruce Springsteen recording from 1984 in New Jersey was the greatest thing ever. Yeah. And you're like, I guess, but I wasn't there and I can't experience that. So I want to have those experiences every single time, just making sure it's the best. It's got some stank. It's got some education. It looks good too, because we're on TV.
That's one of the things that I got a good piece of advice for that I've held on to for years. And I don't naturally gravitate toward public speaking or anything along those lines. This is my version of it. And it's like, look, this is how I do this. And I remember I had a professor, and he was just like, he was telling people in class, he was like, stop going back and say, oh, I messed that up and so on. He's like, you're bringing attention to your flub. It's like, don't do that. Just keep moving like it was intentional. And that's how I do it now. And even through the editing process of doing an interview or doing a podcast or something to that effect, or even doing video, because I've done that as well. You want to look at like really what's your aim. So here with this podcast, when this gets edited, the purpose of this is to have an interview that feels like it's a conversation, because really that's what it is. Sure. But if I'm going through removing every iota and trying to trim it down to fit within a bucket, it loses what its intent is. And it's like you want to aim for perfection while knowing that you're going to miss it. But you're aiming to get better and better and improve and make it always interesting for you. So when we get out of these real questions and get to those rapid fire questions, that wasn't a part of this podcast early on. And I was like, what do I want to add to this? They may know Chef Egg for being on TV. They may know him for attending the class or something. But what did he know about you? I'm going to ask you a weird question about how you feel about leftovers. And that's an added detail that they have about you now.
I have some good ideas about leftovers.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. So,
but like you said, if you talk to somebody in the theater, they're like, I do 8 shows a week. Yeah. Somebody on Broadway, they're like, somebody was like, oh, what about that recipe you did 2 weeks ago? I'm like, I love being in a place where I don't know what I did 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. I got 3 jobs this week. I got 2 live things. I got to travel for something. I got to do 2 virtual classes, and I've got my prep sheets, and I got a shopping list, and I'm living in that world instead of like, I have no clue what I was 2 weeks ago. I don't even look at my Google Calendar anymore. I don't even count. I used to count the guests and rate myself. I had a whole spreadsheet, and I'm like, once it hit like 2,000 guests a year, I was like, I don't care anymore.
Yeah. That's kind of where I'm trying to get at, and I'm moving in that direction with it. Like in a given week, I might do about 10 interviews, and each one of those interviews,
dude.
it is. And, but it's one of those things where I know that's the bandwidth. Once I get to about 15 to 20, that's too many. And it's like, all right, you got to scale it back, know what the capabilities are, and really systemize it. Like, what am I putting into it? So if I'm putting in 3 hours of work, including the interview for each one, it's like, all right, that's a full-time kind of situation you're adding. Mm-hmm. So where are you stealing that time from? And that's one of those things where your practice, whether it is, being a musician, whether it's being a chef, whether it's being a podcaster, curator, whatever, it's a living, breathing thing, so you have to always be monitoring it.
Absolutely. And you have to have systems in place.
Yeah. So think back real quick. You mentioned like numbers. You mentioned things of that nature. When you think back about your career and some of those milestones, what are some of those moments that come to mind, and why?
I got you. There's so many milestones, mm-hmm. and there was a point where I accomplished them all. And then COVID hit, and I said, I need new milestones. Mm-hmm. So the big thing that happened, I was working at Whole Foods Market, and I got a way to finagle things. I can talk to people, I can see opportunities, and I can get them. So I'm at Whole Foods. They're doing a Emerald Lagasse hosted cooking show in Fairfax, Virginia. I'm working at a store in Silver Spring, about an hour and a half away. And I was like, I living in Columbia at the time. I was like, told my boss, I was like, yo, I want to get on the show with Emerald. And they were like, well, I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see. Yeah. And I was like, yo, what's up with that? What's up with that? What's up with that? And they were like, well, we need somebody to make some food when people come in and tell people what to do while the crew is here. Yeah. Because there's a live TV show being taped in a grocery store. And I was like, I want that. And they're like, well, it's in Fairfax, Fair Lakes. And I was like, that's cool. They're like, it's an hour and a half from Columbia in traffic there and back every day. Do you want to do that? Yes, I want to do that. Yeah. So I was on TV with Emerald a couple times, and that was huge. It was awesome. Yeah. I told my parents when I was in college, I'm going to cook for famous people. Yeah. And they're like, okay, go cook for famous people. That sounds great. Go, go get a job and get out of our basement. And a couple of years later, through some connections, dude's like, hey man, you want a private chef gig? And I was like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, well, I'm the chef for Daniel Snyder, owner of the Redskins. Wow. They need a chef, and they're very specific about who they have in their house. So if you want to, you're a nice kid. I was like 25, 26. I was real young. Yeah. And they were like, but I had very small chops at the time. So I went in there, did an interview. I worked there for a whole year, flying on jets and hanging out at the mansion and meeting Hollywood directors and, players and stuff like that. I said I wanted to be at Artscape. Artscape's the big show in the city, if you ask me, right? Yeah. And I was I wanted to be at the farmer's market. I ended up doing hands-on classes at the farmer's market for several years. My friend Sandy, who was running the market at the time, was like, you ready for Artscape? I got you 3 days and I'm going to pay you. And I was like, well, Sandy Lawler is her name. And she's just like the best. We would get together for a beer or coffee and I'd be like, Sandy, Artscape, Bookfest. What's up? What's up? What's up? And she's like, let me find the budget. I'll get back to you. And she always knew that I delivered. So she always had money making opportunities for me. Getting to be, I'm like the guy they call it WBAL. They were like, first, you can't get on there. You can't get through to people. And then they see you can do the job. And they're like, can you be here tomorrow at 6:30 in the morning? And you're like, you got it. I was on the Food Network. That was a huge goal of mine, to be on the Food Network.
Yeah.
And I did a show called Rewrapped. I'm on TV with Joey Fatone and Mark Summers from Double Dare. Like I had a theme song that I was rapping, and Joey Fatone is beatboxing. I'm like, what is going on here? So just wacky stuff like that. I mean, I think the biggest goal is, being married and having two lovely little girls and having a beautiful home and saying that Chef Egg paid for this.
Yeah.
I think that is the biggest thing. I wanted to do tours with Armed Forces Entertainment. And I've done 2 tours with them cooking. Me and Sarah Symington from Blue Moon Cafe, some other chefs were, blessed enough to go to Egypt. We went to Egypt and the Sinai and the Red Sea, all on the military dime, cooking for soldiers. I've been to Bahrain and Djibouti, Africa. I've been to Germany. I just got back from Destin, Florida this weekend, cooking for military. I think the coolest thing that I've done is cooking with the soldiers at Walter Reed. So when we were in the Afghanistan war in 2008, there was a lot of people at Walter Reed. There's a lot of people there now, but we're not in conflict right now. Right. So I was dealing with all types of TBIs, amputations. But when I left cooking with the soldiers, I felt awesome because we had made a great meal, and we had people, soldiers that wouldn't get out of their rooms. They wouldn't move for anybody. They wouldn't talk to anybody, but they're like, Chef Egg's not so bad. He makes them pretty good. He makes them pretty, they wouldn't eat, you know what I mean? Yeah. They were in a place. And then you leave that and you're like, okay, I'm on the right path as far as being an artist, connecting with people. But in my case, it's a blessing to be able to help people like that. Right. So those are kind of the biggest things. And now, and I think making that TV show, I mean, I spent 10 years making that TV show, thinking it and finding the artists to make, character renderings, finding the right person to film it, who's now my friend Brian filmed it, directed it. It was no easy feat. It was really difficult. And we did it. And I just saw him. He just filmed one of my performances last week. And I was like, man, we did that, dude. I still feel really good. It didn't get picked up. I didn't make 30 seasons. I'm not a household name, but I'm like, I don't really care. I just wanted to make that thing. You
did it. And
I did it.
You made it happen. And I think this year I had a few goals that I had in mind, and I'm waiting for them to come to fruition or what have you. Like when you do TV or it's somebody else's thing, you just want to make sure your scene wasn't cut. But it's I wanted to do 2 film projects, and one of them is probably something that's on HBO, and the other one was a student film, and that runs the gamut of kind of what I do with this podcast of. I've talked to people who are established artists, and I've talked to people who are emerging artists. So you have that. And I think towards the end of the year, it's I want to really look back, and it's how many podcasts did I put out? Or even looking at downloads, and even looking at hey, I've been in this many. I had my first and this is nothing to you, Chef Egg, great Chef Egg, but I've had my first in print interview. And it's it
feels good, dude. It's awesome.
It's a thing. And you see these things of this is informing that the effort that I'm putting forth is paying off. Not in a way that you're looking for per se, but you're okay, other people are seeing it. So the desire of being heard is there, being seen and being appreciated for what you're doing is there.
And there's a huge difference between doing this and how it affects people.
Yeah.
Because I go to WBAL and I shoot the thing, and they're all they're so nice, and the production is beautiful. Everything is beautiful. They're just great, but you don't know how it affects 10,000 people. Maybe saw that.
Yeah. You don't get that feedback.
And I have no clue because I'm in my car with some cold Dunkin' Donuts coffee. And then I go home and I clean my dishes, and nobody knows I'm cleaning dishes.
Yeah.
Nobody, I don't have somebody to clean my dishes for me. Would be wonderful. It'd be great. But I know people that are on, I know people that are on the Food Network. I know people that do these big things. They're still lugging around a tub and doing their own dishes when they come back from the studio, because that's it. That's what the job is. It's not the performance; it's the job. And it makes you feel good that somebody's reading an article that you're in. It makes you feel good.
Absolutely. That
you're on the TV. It makes you feel really cool to see your name on the official Artscape lineup. My band, a big, huge thing. I'm in a band called Scotty P and the Love from Above. We got Artscape side stage. Mm-hmm. I was like, yes, I was so pumped, dude. I was so pumped, right? Yeah. So I got a catering job that day. I said, I got to leave this catering job 4:00. I got to be in Baltimore at 5. I got my drums in the back, and I got the band on the phone. Everybody's collaborating, trying to get there. It starts pouring down rain. I was like, is it still on? They're like, it's still on. I was like, and 45 minutes before, they're like, it's off. And it was just sheets of, and I was devastated. Mm-hmm. It's like our names on the, I saw it. I wanted to see it. They got the board on the side of the stage. I wanted to see that. Next year we get a call. They're like, don't worry, Chef Egg, you're first on the list. I've heard that a lot. Mm-hmm. We'll get back to you, Chef Egg. You're good. We're still good. Next year I get a call from one of the producers, and they're like, yeah, we got your spot. You'll see when you're playing on the lineup. So just check out the lineup. Okay. We're going to get a side stage. Maybe we get 3-4 o'clock, when people are rocking and rolling. And one of those, they've got those 2-3 side stages. That'd be great. Yeah. Look on the thing, and we are opening up the main stage. And I was like, call my band. I'm like, yo, we got this
thing. We got it, guys.
and they're like, well, yeah, okay. What side stage we playing? What time will we? I'm like, no, we're on the main stage at 12 o'clock. We're opening this thing up. And that was the first really big stage I played. It's a big stage. Yeah. It's different than playing at Mick O'Shea's pub on Friday night, or the Susquehanna Seafood Festival. Like, it's different. Yeah. But we did it, and it was just like, wow. Yeah. So when you talk about goals and you talk about all this kind of stuff, like, I've had these goals that look so minuscule as compared to what I've accomplished.
I think so, yeah.
And you're like, you want to have these podcasts, and you don't know if somebody listens to a library of your podcasts and 5 years, 10 years down the road, and it gets them thinking about something. Like, you have no clue how it affects people. People saw that main stage performance, or like, that was rocking. Like, a couple years later, they're like, yeah, I saw you on that stage. Cool, man. Like, it just feels good to be noticed.
Absolutely. So I got one more major real question, I like to call them, and then I have some rapid fire questions that we'll wrap up on. So many people, and this is something I noticed that was kind of important for you, read it in some of the bio information that was out there. Many people buy loads of groceries, but have no real sense of what they want to make. Ultimately, they go hit that DoorDash button because there's quote unquote nothing to eat. They can't see what they have and figure out the possibilities. Tell me about intuitive cooking.
Sure. And man, you looked real hard for that intuitive cooking, but it was something I really love to talk to people about. That it is understanding how to put a meal together out of nothing. Mm-hmm. And that comes from having nothing. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of times you'll be at home. I got kids. So I'm like, I don't know what we're going to eat. I don't know. It could be up to like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I'm like, and then you see something and the lines connect and you're like, I can make a quick pot pie. People are like, a quick pot pie? What are you talking about? I'm like,
what's that?
I got some chicken. I got some frozen veggies. I got some cream of chicken soup. I got some frozen biscuits. I got this. I got that. Let's throw it together and make something. We call it hobo stew, everything soup. But understanding, the class I taught today, we taught people how to make a salad. Mm-hmm. Like, people don't know how to make a salad. Right. And part of intuitive cooking is like, well, I made steamed some broccoli yesterday. I got some lettuce. I got some black beans from Taco Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? We're having tacos today. So it's being able to be like, my wife's home and I just look in the fridge and what are we going to have? What am I going to make my wife for lunch today? And we got this, we got that, the other. And then I make a vinaigrette that kind of matches the ingredients. And a vinaigrette's the same. It's a vinegar or something sour, olive oil, some herbs, but you can mix it up. If you're going to make Italian food, you can make a balsamic. If you're going to make some barbecue, you make a apple cider vinaigrette. If you're going to do something French, you do a champagne vinaigrette. So understanding what direction you're going. Italian, I'm going to add basil and oregano. Mexican, I've got oregano, chilies, and garlic. If I'm making Indian, we're going straight to curries. We're doing turmeric, fenugreek. If I'm doing Thai, I've got fish sauce, soy, and lime and sugar. So intuitive cooking is like, what direction are we going? What do we have in front of us? It could be potatoes, sweet potatoes, black beans. It could be broccoli. It could be cabbage. Yeah. What protein do I have? Do I have beans? Do I have tofu? Do I have chicken, pork, beef? What cut do I have? You're able to narrow down what you can make by what you have, but also keeping, some good pantry staples in the house as well. I'm kind of spoiled as far as that goes because I got a lot of staples in the house, but every time you go to the store, buy a new little jar of spice, and that way when it hits, I want to make a curry, be like, oh, I remember I went to the Asian market. I got this little tin of curry that cost $2. I got a $1 can of coconut milk and some chicken. I can make a chicken curry. You know what I mean? So intuitive cooking is just understanding what you have, understanding what your meal goals are, and then putting something together. And I'm not the person, I didn't come up with this. I think every mother and father growing up, in houses that didn't have tons of resources know about intuitive cooking. And sometimes the best stuff is made from that. There's French coq au vin, which is rooster with wine. That was just the dead rooster. The tough meat of the rooster, you had to boil it down with wine and vegetables to make it soft. Yeah. Now it's at Petit Louis for $45 a plate. You know what I mean? Yeah. Ratatouille is just the soft vegetables from the field that they chopped up, and they put some olive oil and they put some thyme and they put it in the oven. Yeah. And every culture has something like that. Rice and beans, rice and peas. It's to feed a large family. It is to feed a bunch of people for a small amount of money. But now people are like, rice and beans is a superfood and it's the greatest thing in the world. And you're like, man, people have been eating that because it's cheap and it feeds a lot of people. I mean, literally, and it tastes good.
You can go to the store, get a plantain, a little oil or some butter or something, like a stick of butter, a plantain, a can of beans, and some rice, and then you have side dishes at a Dominican restaurant.
That is what you have.
And I'm a bit of a foodie, a bit of a guy in the kitchen or what have you. I've recently kind of switched to doing the meal kits or what have you. Not necessarily the Marley Spoon, but more so like bodybuilder kits because I want the extra protein. Okay. And every now and again, I'll find myself dabbling back in because I bought a butcher's block and a chef knife recently. And I was like, oh, I got to get busy with this. So I'm just looking for excuses to use my chef knife. I was like, oh, I got some spinach. Let me add this here. Yeah. Oh, let me try to make this into ribbons. So where's that cheese? Let's see if I can cut this in this way that I want.
And I think it's wonderful because once you start doing it and you see, if you want more protein in your life, cooked protein at a store or restaurant, Whole Foods, Giant, it's not cheap. It's not cheap to have their staff cook the food for you. Right. So if you know how to do batch of, seared chicken breast, grilled chicken breast, chiffonade your spinach, you're going to be saving money. You're going to be cooking more health wise as well. There's a ton of things that cooking does, but also it makes you feel good. Like I made this, sharing it with my friends. I really love to share my food. I love having people over. I like to party. I like to have wine. I like good conversation. And I like to show my friends, I try not to show off because I don't want to do that, but you want to show, when you have friends over, I want to make you really good food. It's kind of expected that I make you good food, but
Yeah.
I actually really want to do that because hospitality is such a big thing for me. Whether it's a TV show, whether it's a live presentation, or whether I have friends over, hospitality is number one. And, hospitality, being on a podcast, I gotta be hospitable to you. You have to be hospitable everywhere you go. Feels good to do that. It feels good to make your own food.
Absolutely. So I think that's a good spot for us to leave it before we get into these rapid fire questions. Now, here's the thing. All the goodwill that we've established over the last however long, it's all going to go away now. So because we got rapid fire now. So what'll happen is this. We're going to answer these as quickly as we can. So I'm going to start off with this one. Favorite celebrity chef?
It's a good one. I have to say, I like Gordon Ramsay, and I'll tell you why. Gordon Ramsay puts on a show. He yells at people. All those people he yells at deserve to be yelled at. You would yell at them. They wouldn't be chosen for the show if they weren't able to be yelled at.
Right.
I saw him. He used to do a show before he came to America. He did a BBC show, and he was like, he saw a young chef. Dude was 17 years old in a kitchen he shouldn't have been in because it was unsafe, and he was yelling at the head chef. And he said, "You're coming with me." And the kid's like, oh, and he's like, I see what you do here. You do a great job. This is this person's number. You call them, I will call them, and I'm getting you a job. And I saw him do that on that show 10 times, maybe. A young cook. He sees the talent. He knows what's going on. He has to put on the show. But Gordon Ramsay's never wrong. And these people, I've been in kitchens with these people, and you're telling them, you don't want to yell at them, but you have to convince somebody that doesn't want to be convinced that what they're doing is unsafe or unsanitary or impractical. And they're like, it's my restaurant. This is the way I want to do it. And he's like, well, you're a donkey. Get out of here. You know what? Because those people are donkeys. They are he's being honest with them. The guy's got 5 kids. He's got a probably $1 billion situation going on. And I think it's admirable because his level of service is so high, his level of food quality. I don't agree with everything the guy does. I don't need to, but I do remember seeing him being an excellent coach and mentor to people that needed it, with love and respect. And I was like, that's the real dude. You know what I mean? Like, the real dude's not the yelling guy. The real dude's that goes into these places and helps these young people, realize their life. I'll be honest. You say what you want about Guy Fieri. He's got some funky looking hair and he's got a whole shtick going on. But I've personally met, 10 restaurateurs who look up to this guy because he has put them on the map. Sarah from Blue Moon, Guy Fieri's been there 5 times. And every time they can't shut the doors, they can't keep the people out. I know people all over the country that have been blessed to be on his TV show and are making a killing. And again, I don't agree with everything the guy does. I think he's got funny looking hair and too much jewelry, but what he does for the folks that he helps out is amazing, and that trumps anything else.
So this is the final one I got for you, and this is the one I referenced earlier. Best leftover in terms of what you can do with it. What comes to mind for you? Like, what's the leftover? Because I think there's a little framing that has to happen there. So what's the leftover that you regularly kind of like work with? And like, what's the best in that regard?
Leftover tacos are just beautiful. And I always make extra tacos. Leftover tacos are the best, because whether you got chicken, you got steak, you got beef, we do black bean and sweet potato tacos for a little veggie action. You got taco salad the next day. You got nachos, you got enchiladas, you have anything. We're having tacos tonight. I'm really excited. And tomorrow I'm going to pack up a taco lunch, and it's going to be awesome. And as long as you can keep the ingredients separate, whether you're at work or you're tomorrow I'll be on the road, I could put together a taco salad in the trunk of my car, no problem. Because I have the skills. But leftover tacos can't be beat. Leftover pizza.
Yeah.
When my daughter's like, I love cold pizza. Not as good as hot pizza, but cold pizza is good. I was like, cold pizza is
Cold
good.
pizza is good.
I'll tell you, and this gets to tacos. I don't know if you've ever had like leftover Chipotle.
Yes.
Leftover Chipotle cold is really good.
It is.
And I'll go in my refrigerator the next morning and just crush that for breakfast. I'm like, that was good. That was tasty. I love it.
I usually do that with like Indian food. If I get like a tikka masala or something, and it's like, look, I'm not even going to really heat this up. I'm just going to eat this. I'm just going to like put this down my gullet, and it's great. Like the only thing I really need to heat up is like the naan or what have you. You gotta get the garlic naan, and it's like that's about it. And I like when it's like a lot of garlic on there, but it's like, this is on the side. Oh yeah, let's make it a thing.
So one thing we were talking about, intuitive cooking. Right now, I've got a batch of rice in the fridge. I can freeze that rice. It'll be great when I defrost it. But I love making like everything in the kitchen sink fried rice. And as long as I got some eggs to scramble and some bacon grease and some onions and I put everything seasoning on top, a little teriyaki sauce in there. It is so good. I'll throw like chopped lunch meat in there. Yeah. I'll throw turkey in there. Rotisserie chicken. So once you understand intuitive cooking, leftovers are a breeze. A big thing, I'll tell you, we used to have leftover Taco Bell. I don't know how there was leftover Taco Bell. I do over order. I'd be in college. There'd be a couple tacos left over. My roommates were like, "What are you doing, dude?" I would have like the cold tortilla in the toaster. I would scrape out the meat, put the sour cream and lettuce and cheese to the side, scrape out the meat, heat that in the microwave, and then reassemble. I would do that with Wendy's bacon cheeseburgers, like separate, like put a knife in there and cut the bread from the meat. Yeah. Heat up the bread, do this, and then and my roommates are like, "What are you doing, dude?" I'm like, "I'm making leftovers."
It's like fast food resurrections.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll eat leftovers. Like I make a lot of food. There's always leftovers in my fridge and I will eat them.
Absolutely. So that's pretty much it. All I really have for today. So I want to, one, thank you for coming onto the podcast. And two, I want to invite and encourage you to tell the fine folks where to check out Chef Egg.
Sure. You can learn more about me at chefegg.com. I've got an educational website called cookingwithegg.com. I'm working on getting those two smashed together. And then I'm at Chef Egg on Instagram and Facebook.
So there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Chef Egg for coming on to the podcast. And I'm Rob Lees, and there is food, entertainment, education, hospitality in and around Baltimore, and you just got to look for it.